Hey guys, Bart from TST Industries here. In this video we're going to show you the installation of this TST Industries integrated taillight on a Yamaha FZ07. This taillight is a direct fit model that replaces your OEM unit. It's all plug and play. All the OEM plugs are included on the harness. So the installation is a snap, and it's also available in a choice of clear or smoked lens. So as you can see here, we've drastically redesigned the lens component of this taillight. And when you compare it with the OEM unit, you can see that we've designed the continuation of these body lines into our lens, and that basically complements the look of the tail of the FZ07 a little bit nicer than the OEM unit. Now the light engine is comprised of 108 really bright LEDs arranged in a fashion that give you the running light from the perimeter here of the lens, and your brake light output is from the entire lens area. If you choose to use the integrated signals in this taillight, that will be half and half left and right. Now another unique aspect to this taillight is that we have a programming button that enables you to access 9 different combinations of light programs on this taillight, and that button remains accessible from the trunk compartment without the need for removing any parts, so that you can change your light program at any point really. We'll show you a little bit later the different light programs for this taillight, and right now I'd like to step into the installation, so let's begin. As you can see here, we've already outfitted this bike with our TST Industries Elite 1 fender eliminator. Most guys will probably at this point have the fender eliminated, and that's why we're basically starting with the way the bike is. If you need help with all the steps necessary to remove your fender and unplug all the electrical components that come off with the fender, we will have an appendix chunk in the end of this video that will help you with all of that. So for this installation, we're basically going to install just the taillight. It's a fairly simple and quick installation. We'll begin right now. First step will be to remove the seats. Passenger seat comes off really easy with just the use of the key, and driver's seat has 2 5mm Allens that are accessible when you peel back on the rear portion of the seat. If you guys watch my other videos, you'll know that I like to keep these screws in place here, and they are held captive by the seat itself. It makes it easier in reassembly. Follow this by removing these 2 fasteners. They're just Phillips head. And now we'll be able to take the center portion of the tail and remove that. So in the next step, we will be removing these 2 Phillips fasteners here to enable us to remove the center portion of the rear of the tail. When these fasteners come out, simply slide this center portion towards the rear and lift it off. These 2 slide fasteners unlock when you get them to the rear. Next, we will remove these 2 fasteners. And along with them, we will take the spacers that they go through, flex the plastic up a little bit, just like that. Remove it, we'll put that to the side. And lastly, here on top, we will remove these 2 fasteners. These are 8mm hex heads. And now we can jump to the bottom of the bike and continue with the process. Now in this next step, we will be removing these 4 push fasteners. You can use a screwdriver to reset the center. That unlocks them. And then we'll just push them back out so they're ready to be inserted again during our reinstallation. Now we have all the fasteners out from these side panels. We'll be able to pry away from the center and unlock the side panels from the taillight assembly. Before we move forward, I wanted to show you guys in detail what part of the side panel here gets removed from the taillight, so you know where to look. This push fastener here fits into a grommet that sits on the enclosure of the taillight, and that needs to be removed in the outer direction to unlock the last component of the taillight. So now we will remove these two fasteners from the taillight. Now the taillight will be completely free to be removed. One thing I want to note here for you guys is that there are sleeves in these grommets here, and they are pretty loose on some of these bikes. So I like to take them out before I take the taillight out so I don't end up losing one of these in the bike. Now our taillight's completely free here, with the exception of being plugged in. So now we have to find the plug. Plug is usually, on most OEM setups, right in here on the left side of the trunk compartment. There's a 3-conductor plug that has yellow, blue, and black wires. And we will unplug this plug from the harness. There's a tab here that needs to be pressed down to release the male portion from the female portion. I like to use a small flathead screwdriver that helps me release this ratchet from its clip. Now we just need to trace this back up here, right below the cable that controls the lock for your rear seat. Is where this wire is routed through the trunk, and it has a little locking feature there, so you need to remove that from there. And there is another routing component here that we'll remove. It's one of these things that has a double ratchet. I'm going to take this off and replace it on our new integrated taillight. Now the taillight should just slip back. Alright, and before we go any further, we'll need to deconstruct some of the components from taillight here to be reused on our new taillight. Firstly, we will remove these threaded components, and then we will remove the rubber grommets, and just make a note that the larger ones fit in the top and the smaller ones fit in the side. Also on the side ones here, I'll show you guys. There is a smaller diameter chunk, a larger diameter chunk. The larger diameter stays outside, the smaller diameter goes inside. And once we get all these components out, we can put this taillight to the side and proceed to setting up our new TST Industries taillight with all these components. I'm going to start with these threaded panel fasteners. They do have a little window stamped in them here that enables insertion over a tab, and that positions them really nicely. I'm going to use the larger rubber grommets, get them in right here through the top. Just make sure that they are evenly distributed and they're not pinched like that. All right. Now again, with the smaller diameter portion towards the inside, I'm going to insert these into the side of the capsule. And make sure they're evenly distributed. All right, now we'll be ready to get this taillight bike back into the bike and route the wires. All right, so let's now get the wires in. I'm basically going to mimic the routing of the OEM setup. And I'm going to get this taillight into its physical location. And to keep it in place, I'm going to insert those push fasteners that are on the inside of these side panels into those grommets that I just put onto this taillight, and now this will keep itself in place for me. And now what I like to do is get this routing component that we removed from the OEM taillight wire, get it around our new wires here, and put it back into the location that it came out of here. And there's only one hole for it here, so it's really easy to identify. And now I'm gonna insert these wires back into that routing guide that is built into the trunk compartment and get these wires close to the plug it in, and find the signal wires, signal plugs rather, on the harness. And I'm going to power up the bike and turn on one of the signals. And that way I could find what the combination here of this bike. Alright, so now I have left on the left side, right on the right side. I've plugged them in correctly. I'm just going to make sure that all of these wires are sitting neatly within their routing channel in here. I don't want them in the trunk compartment. I want them nice and neat and tucked away. I think what I'm going to do here is just take them back out real quick and grab a zip tie and make sure I have a nice professional installation done. I don't want to leave them just hanging here, so I'm just going to make sure that they're all nice and neat. And using a zip tie, I can make that happen real nice. Now that we have everything connected and nice and neat, I want to make sure I have all the functions. And as you can see, we've achieved that. I'd like to talk a little bit about the flash rate here. This bike is equipped with the OEM flasher relay. Whenever you change the signaling system to an LED type, you will have fast flashing just like this. It's also called hyper flash. We do sell an LED flasher relay for this particular bike. We do have another installation video showing you how to install that part on this bike, so I won't get into that. If you'd like to see that, please check out our channel in the flasher relays portion, or you could go to our website and access the video through the product page. So from this point forward, the reinstallation of all the components is basically in the reverse order of disassembly. So I will do all that now. At this point, installation is complete. The bike is ready to go. Before we finish the video, I'd like to go through some programming options with you guys. This taillight is programmable on the fly, really. If at any point you want to change a different light feature program, you will have to take off the seat, locate the program button that I showed in the introduction of this video that is accessible through the back here. It's not very easy on this particular motorcycle, but if you get your finger in through here, you can actually press it. And you could hear that button working. So, we have 9 combinations. We basically have 3 signal features. You have standard signal, blink on off. You have scanning signal, which is from the center out. And then you have your pulsar signal, which for the duration of on cycle will pulse from 85% to 100% brightness on those signal LEDs. On the brake side, you have standard on when your brakes are on, off when the brakes are off. You have strobe alert, which flashes the LEDs 5 times before it kicks on constant. And then you have your pulsar brake, which for the duration of your brakes being on will pulse the brake circuit from 85 to 100% brightness. All right, so here we have the bike set up in standard brake, standard signal mode. And by toggling the programming button one time, we will access standard brake, scanning signal. Hitting that button one more time will put us into standard brake and pulsar signal. And by hitting that button again, we will return to standard signal but advance the brake into strobe alert. And then beyond that, I'll just show you guys really quickly here all the other options. And at this point, I've exhausted the 9 different combinations of all of the light patterns that can be programmed, and I am back at standard. And this completes our demonstration here. Hope you guys enjoy the video, and you'll check us out again. See you guys later. So the first step, as always, will be to remove the current license plate with its OEM hardware so that we can reuse that on our setup. We'll put that to the side, and then Next step will be to remove the passenger seat. And we can put that to the side now. So at this point, we will get rid of the driver's seat by removing these two fasteners here, one on either side. And now we'll remove this body component. Two Phillips head screws here. And it just pops up in this direction. Now this body component that joins the rear of the tail, also held in by two Phillips screws. This guy just pulls back. Now at this point we will remove these two fasteners. And after they come out, we will also remove these spacers. Put those to the side. Now we can undo the three connections for the components that will be coming off with the fender here. These are the OEM signals and also the license plate light. So I'll just pry up on this tab here and pull back. Just like that. Now these are free to come out. I'm gonna remove them from the routing clips. There really is only one here. Once these are free, it's gonna be really easy to drop that fender and move on. All right, so now we'll just remove these two additional screws here from the tail. And now we can move on to the bottom of the bike. Now we can begin the removal of all these components here that will give us access to the four fasteners holding the fender on. First step of that procedure will be to remove these two push fasteners. I will reset the center that unlocks it, and I'll just pry it up, or rather down towards the ground away from the bodywork. And I'll pry this down, push it forward, that clears out. In addition, I will remove these two push fasteners in the same fashion. Reset the center, pry out. And now we will have enough access to these two side panels of the tail to pry them apart. There is a friction fastener right about this location that plugs right into the tail light. So we need to pull straight out. All right, so now with the tail spread, we have access to the four fasteners holding the fender assembly to the frame. So now I'll remove the last push fastener from the center behind the fender, from my point of view, actually in towards the front of the bike. And this is the last push fastener that holds plastic components of the fender to the bodywork. Now we have all that loose, and I will remove the four fasteners holding the fender now. Now as the last fastener comes out, I'm going to support the fender with my other hand, making sure that it doesn't just drop and yank on the wires that are still left inside. And now I'm just going to make sure none of the plugs get snagged. Take this unit out and we can put that to the side.